Hello and welcome to the Honest Trailer Commentary for Star Wars The Last Jedi. I'm Spencer J. Gilbert, that's Joe Starr, that's Dan Murrell.
I'm glad someone's finally going to talk about this movie.
Finally, a place on the internet, three white nerds talking Star Wars The Last Jedi.
Can we?
The best.
What the world has been missing.
Oh, God, man. I just can't think of another outlet that has just guys like this talking about franchises like Star Wars.
It's crazy. We've got appropriate logos for other films we enjoy on our t-shirts.
Absolutely.
Pretty cool.
Yeah,
Yep.
very cool.
Very
you
cool.
could say.
Very, very cool.
That said, we did make an honest trailer for this movie. A divisive film. I was shocked at how divisive it was. I walked out thinking I enjoyed that film quite a bit.
Same.
And then found out why I was a heretic on the internet.
You can check the tape. When I reviewed this movie after I saw it, I predicted that this would be the most divisive Star Wars movie of all time because I myself was divided and am still divided.
You were split apart like Kylo Ren after killing his father?
Split apart. I was torn asunder by this movie. There are parts that I love. There are parts that I didn't like. And I think it's safe to say that I was the least enthusiastic of the three of us on this movie.
Safe to say. Now, here's the thing. I came of age in the prequel era, where Star Wars was terrible.
Yes.
And people who deny that, and I was prime prequel-like in age, but goddamn did I know that those movies sucked when I saw them. These movies, despite any of their flaws, are so much better than what we've gotten in the past that I don't understand how you could be upset by them after a full decade of boring crap.
Well, I don't think anyone was comparing it to the prequels. I certainly wasn't. I just think that it had some tonal inconsistencies, some storytelling inconsistencies. I'm not judging the rightness or wrongness of the direction. I understand the direction that they took this movie. I think that there were some inconsistencies with how the story was being told that showed. But
now, in the movie itself, or compared to Force Awakens?
Compared to the overall arc of the story, the setup to the story, and
but like contained in the movie, or are you comparing it to?
It is part 2 of 3. Yeah. So yes, I am judging it based on the story that was begun in the previous movie that they are continuing in this movie. I thought that there were some choices that were made in this movie that just rang very hollow compared to how they had been telling the story previously, and it stuck out to me that this was not in any way planned or meant to be how it is.
Well, it did stick out to me in a way that wasn't unplanned. It was like, whoa, it kind of shook me out of my not boredom, but like my oh, this is Joseph Campbell, it's the monomyth,
ticking the boxes.
She's she's the farm girl who actually turns out to be the princess, and like it was like, whoa, wow, I did not see this coming. So whether it was planned or not, we'll see how it's resolved in part 3.
Well, it wasn't, but
well, it depends on who you believe.
It's been pretty heavily stated that Rian Johnson was like, nah, and then just kind of did his own thing. So
well, he was. I'm unclear on the timeline because at what point was JJ writing part 3?
Never until Trevorrow got replaced.
Until Trevorrow got canned. But I know that like Rian Johnson took a look at sort of JJ's outline, wanted to do his own thing, and then went back with the Lucas story group and sort of put together his Last Jedi. Yeah. So the weird idea that he like went rogue, was somehow able to go rogue against the company with like murder satellites in the air if you like screw with their franchises is a little weird to me. Like that narrative from like you can't think Disney is an uncompromising evil monolith and then also think that the guy that made Brick was somehow able to circumvent their system. Like the logic there doesn't balance to me. But you know, for better or worse, this is the film that Lucasfilm was like, yep, this checks out.
Because for whatever the plannedness or the unplannedness, these are made up words, of it is.
I'm using those more now.
If you're writing a part 2 of 3, you gotta know that these are setups to conclusions that will come in the next movie, or misdirects to things that will happen in the next movie. He wasn't like, this is it, this is self-contained, nothing else happened before, nothing else will happen after.
This just seemed very much like the Star Wars that Rian Johnson wanted to make. which I am not faulting Disney for giving him the latitude to do that. My point and why I think I stand a little bit apart was I was not quite in the camp of like, oh my God, this is startlingly original and it's reinvigorated my blood for this franchise because it's gone away that it would never go. I was kind of more in the middle of just like, okay, I like some of what they did with this, and there's other parts of it that to me were a little just completely dissimilar and not at all in tone or in line with what was set up. And when everything that's been set up is a misdirect, then that, again, to me is just like, all right, well, maybe one or two things, but when everything in this movie is like the opposite, then that is a bit jarring to me. And I was one of those ones that was just like, I think you might have gone a little too far. I think maybe you were
burn it if you have to. Kill the past, man.
Oh,
chop
God.
it all down.
If I hear that line quoted in my face one more effing time in response to this movie, yeah. Well, this is part of it. It's just like, again, this was the opportunity to have a really interesting and deep discussion about the Star Wars franchise that most of the internet completely discarded in favor of screaming at each other going into the 5th month.
It's not screaming at each other. It's actually provoking a more nuanced discussion of the franchise than I'd seen in the past because granted, they've watched the movie once and everybody has now become a self-appointed expert on story development and character arcs, which is different from just yelling about plot holes or nitpicks and stuff like that. So people are talking about the roots of stories and setups and payoffs, and like, I'm actually kind of impressed, for whatever the disagreements, that the discourse has stayed on the level of, I guess, craft and like,
where are you reading?
Yeah.
What part of the
internet
channel's comments
are you on?
Because everyone's like, the character arcs, the plot payoffs and stuff like that. People usually don't talk about movies in those terms.
Are you going to like the Lucasfilm smoking room or putting on jackets? Because that's not the discussions that I've been seeing.
Of course, there's your, too many ladies told guys what to do.
Yeah, that's a big one.
There's stuff in there. But yeah, I think for the most part that people have become self-appointed screenwriters of this movie, which is a better way to tackle it than to just be like, I don't like the porgs.
I think I don't like the porgs. There's a challenge too in I think with this whole new trilogy, no matter how it pans out, in comparing them or ranking them with like the original trilogy, because I can't tell you how many times I've seen the original trilogy movies. I probably think about them once a day. And it's like, I won't say disingenuous. That's too negative a word. I will say near insurmountable to like walk out of The Last Jedi for the first time and like rank it with, or give it context with these movies that you've lived with your entire life. It is challenging.
So rank it.
Okay, so it's gonna go Empire, Last Jedi, New Hope.
That's my favorite, is the people that would walk out of the screening after 5 minutes after seeing it and be like, this is the definitive rank of where this, like, you just saw it 5 minutes ago.
Yeah,
give it a second. Let it sit. Like, I had to come review the thing the day after I saw it, and I still didn't know what I thought of it.
Yeah.
Like, especially this thing of just like, I've got to be the first to rank this, and here's the definitive rank, and I will fight to the death for this rank.
That stuff bugs me.
Give it a second. Let it sit. Let it marinate. Let it
If
stew.
Return of the Jedi came out today, I would be like, what is this? But I've had 36 years to like make myself at peace with Ewoks and Wicket and Yub Jub and and so I like it. I love Return of the Jedi for all of its faults, and maybe someday in 36 years people will be like, you know what, that Holdo, I get it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, guys, should we get to the time code that everyone's going to say skip to in the comment section for the start of the trailer?
And now.
Welcome to those of you that said skip to this time code. Let's watch the honest trailer.
It's good to see you.
We had a good discussion. You should check it out. It was the
what's it ranked? What's the score, Dan?
Stick around for deleted scenes. I forgot to say that. Oops.
In a polarized world, the next installment of the franchise, all about balance and non-attachment, will be worshipped, hated, and obsessed over until it's not even fun to talk about anymore.
This is not going to go the way you think.
Nah, we know Star Wars fans by now. Star Wars: The Last Jedi. Forget the love letter to the originals that was The Force Awakens, because Episode 8 subverts everything you've come to expect, making it the worst
one ever.
Aw, who invited the original Honest Trailer voice back? Are you
We
really
did.
going to do the old ones are better / new ones are better thing we did with The Force Awakens?
The only way to talk about Star Wars now is in absolutes, so yes.
Kinda Sithy of you, but fine. Making
All right,
last...
Pause.
So Gannon, the original voice of Honest Trailers. Well, not the first, but the first consistent voice of Honest
Yeah.
Trailers.
Isn't the first one like an actor somewhere?
There was like
Ptolemy
3 or
Slocum.
4,
Yeah.
3 or 4 different ones.
He's on the Westworld.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was one
He's
of the,
the
one of the analyst guys.
the
yeah.
gross lab tech in
Yeah.
Westworld who like does stuff to the bodies. That's the voice. That's really cool. It was tough to know how to tackle this one because obviously there's some divided opinions, and we did the cop out thing by just doing both sides. Good for us.
Yeah,
We did it, yeah.
But
Nailed
isn't
it.
that the most honest way to address this movie? Is to talk about how to. I mean, it's honest trailers, not pick a side trailers. So when we have a movie like this, where the story is the argument, then that's the angle we probably should take if we're going to do the honest version. Because the honest take on this movie is nobody can agree.
I feel like the honest trailer is never for a movie like this is never what most people want it to be, because I see comments that are just like, "This is my favorite Star Wars movie. I can't wait to see the honest trailer like come through on the side of, me." And then people who are like, "I can't wait until you guys tear this piece of garbage apart like it tore apart my life."
Yeah.
And it's like it's never gonna be that.
Yeah. So I think the most honest take is there's two sides to this story. Balance. We brought balance to the Force here.
Yeah.
We attempted to,
Yeah.
but Gannon.
Gannon's great. We got to work
to-
with Gannon
By phone?
for my first time via Skype or something like that, and he doesn't look how you thought he would. They never do, the voice actors.
Nope.
But got a great voice and a good dude to work with. He makes me laugh, man. Anytime he says a word.
He's hilarious. Yeah. I was kind of like, because I was working on the following honest trailer, so I was on headphones, but I'd hear just weird random sentences out of Gannon on like takes and stuff, and it just cracked me up every time.
He has a very particular timbre and tone to his voice that I think is very funny in a different way that John is very funny.
Yeah.
I think they complement each other really well.
Very nicely.
So we're going to be doing this for every honest trailer from now on.
For no reason. Let's
I
continue.
live in your home now.
Making Last Jedi a refreshing update to a predictable formula.
That spits in the face of everything you once loved.
Whiner,
Traitor.
meet the new class of heroes coming into their own, like Rey, who after being called by Luke's lightsaber, is called by the Jedi text,
a lot of calls.
called by a big wet hole, and called by her greatest frenemy.
That's Joseph Campbell, man.
Yet still gets zero answers to any of her questions.
I thought I'd find answers here. I was wrong.
Poe, who grows from a hotshot sexy pilot,
To a treasonous failure with more blood on his hands than the Empire.
First Order,
Same difference.
and Finn, who went from a deserter running away from the war.
To a deserter running away from the war.
With the help of newcomer Rose, he'll learn to put the greater good above himself.
Thanks to a pointless side quest to Casino Royale.
Because how dare they spend 15 minutes connecting the action to a larger theme?
The larger theme being, is it possible to miss pod racing? I didn't think so, but here we are.
Kanto Bight.
I didn't mind it. I mean, you need the cantina in Force Awakens. You had Maz Kanata's place. You need the hive of scum and villainy in Star Wars movies. This was actually more in tone with Star Wars films of the past to me than anything else. Yes, you could cut it. Yes, this is the longest Star Wars movie made. But I also thought it was interesting that they saved the horses and not the slave children. But aside from that, aside from those things,
Leave them.
leave them. Take the
Set
horse.
the horse.
Take
things.
the cat horse.
Set the horse
horse
dog
free.
free.
But also, what are they gonna? They're gonna take those kids back to the slowly running out of gas ship that
yeah,
has
the-
like Snoke's B-1 bomber right behind it. Like, hey, kids, you're safe.
kids
We put
the
him on the
worst.
wrong transport.
Yeah.
My only complaint with Kanto Bight is my complaint with the new trilogy is that while I really enjoy seeing all of the new aliens and all the new practical costumes and stuff like that, they've lost almost every like Star Wars alien and stuff that like feels Star Wars to me. Like there's no Twi'leks running around in the background or Akbar guys, Mon Calamars.
Oh, there's things in the
Mon Calas?
background. I'm sure there's novels written about them already as we speak.
Oh, there are. But just like, where did every species go from Clone Wars and the prequels and the original trilogy and Star Wars Rebels and like they're all gone. Well, yeah, it's a big galaxy, but isn't that big?
I will say this: the Kanto Bight sequence isn't that bad, but it would have been a lot better and made a lot more sense if Finn died at the end. Because to me, the whole point of this is like it's his part of his journey and his arc, and Rose is helping him realize that like, oh, there's like a bigger world out there, and this is like there's people suffering, and it's not just about me getting away from it all, which would have made sense for him to sacrifice himself for a greater cause at the end. But they kind of copped out.
Yeah, that's where the one place where the movie did not subvert expectation that I was disappointed that it did not subvert was like, okay, now this is interesting. You've had
no, I do think that this seemed to be setting up Finn's heroic sacrifice at the end.
Yeah.
So now it just seems like a kind of vestigial little organ you can zip off.
I don't know.
It's very nihilistic. There was a lot of what felt like nihilism in this movie. And
that wasn't his arc to me.
Well, I don't know.
Finn's?
Yeah. I saw his arc more about learning that there is not an all-time good side and an all-time bad side, and that the braver sacrifice is sort of staying the course and focusing on protecting and saving the things you love, and that one grand gesture isn't necessarily going to be what does that.
But that feeds again into the nihilism of it all, which is just like, I think that's what, again, I'm not saying it's a bad message, but it is so out of whack with what anything that's come before it is this thing of just like, it's a side quest. It doesn't matter. They failed anyway. There are no good guys. There are no bad guys. Everybody's in the middle of it, and you only really need to care about the ones that are with you. You know, there are no Jedi. There are no Sith. The bad guys suck. The good guys suck. It's just this recurring theme, but everybody sucks.
But
that's
those things aren't necessarily true.
Sucks.
Yeah. That's an idea that DJ gives to Finn. That's not necessarily what the film is saying.
But it's an idea that the movie is also promoting very heavily. Luke Skywalker's like, the Jedi's legacy is failure. Just like,
show me the lie.
Show
me the lie, Dan.
But again, it's this thing of just like, it's everything. That was everything. Everything was like, this person sucks. That person you thought was good, they're not that good. That person you thought was bad, maybe they're not so bad. This person sucks. The Jedis were failures. It's time to get rid of them. That was everything. This long thing will fail.
Say about the Jedi, like in all of our honest trailers and every ScreenJunkies.
But now the movies are saying it, and that. But to me, that was. But that's the whole. But that was everything in this movie. Everything in this movie was like, everything you know sucks, and you need to get rid of all of it. And like, I'm not saying, I get it. When people say you don't get the Last Jedi, I get it, but I also get why there's some people that were maybe a little upset that the movie franchise that they love took an official stance. It was like, by the way, the Jedi, they're shit, and you need to get rid of them, and they suck. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm saying that's why people are upset.
They're not, but because it was coming from Luke Skywalker, it seems to be endorsing that.
And he himself realizes that like he's been kind of on the wrong track. Like
he
he's
snaps
ready
out
to go
of it by the end.
And then he sees Rey and Kylo FaceTiming, which freaks him out.
Right.
You know, gets the Force back up in him.
Yeah, I mean, to me, this whole movie, it's the Game of Thronesification of Star Wars, where it's like you have your Tolkien fantasy, and then you have Game of Thrones, where it's like knights are shit, kings and queens are just a crapshoot of good or evil, and
Rose drinks and she knows things,
and we're all drinks and she knows things, and we're all just kind of pawns in this. And I like that. I think that that's a really cool thing. That's kind of truer to the spirit of Star Wars to me than we need to worship these genetically pure race of Skywalkers who have been passed down from generation to generation. The entire galaxy revolves around them. We're all just happy to be a part of their story.
That's the false narrative that everybody who doesn't agree with people that don't like this movie says, like, oh, I'm sorry, you only like whatever they spoon-fed you in the past, you little baby.
I'm saying that's why I like it.
But that's the argument that's used against people that have problems with this movie is like, I'm sorry that you can't handle anything different from what... It's like, that's not what anyone else is saying. I'm just saying it's a little bit jarring for a Star Wars movie to come along and just say, everything sucks, and your heroes aren't heroes, and you know the past needs to go away. Everything you cared about doesn't matter. Everything you wanted an answer to is meaningless, and you know, forget everything that came before it because none of it is consequential anymore. But that's jarring.
But
I think that's the conflict.
I think Luke was a hero in the end. He just wasn't the hero that like people were expecting, which the movie set up. You know, it's like, do you just want me to like walk up to a line of like 100 AT-ATs with like one lightsaber? Like that's not a thing.
Which he called a laser sword, which I'm sure some fans really got pissed off about. Luke Skywalker himself called it a laser sword.
I think he he eclipses all that and becomes something even better by finding a new way, which would fit sort of the the Jedi code and stuff like that, which is all about balance and non-aggression. He found that actual sort of balance that he was going for, and sort of did something heroic. Was it like a visceral, like, was it a scene from The Raid 2? No, but I think ultimately he did something sort of heroic that mattered.
Yeah, and when you strip away the legends and the Empire and the Jedi and the Sith and all this thing we've deified, what are you left with? You're left with regular ass people looking out for each other. And I think that was what the movie was about. Like the three of us regular ass dudes, with the kids in the stable and the dying embers of the resistance, and the way that people were told not to be heroes in the traditional way, that the heroic thing is to just look out for each other and not be holding ourselves up to these insane, crazy, legendary standards. Otherwise, it turned into Kylo Ren.
Yeah.
To me, that was very moving. Let's keep going.
I'm just saying, I hate that people can't understand, or seemingly don't want to understand, why people are so upset about this movie. Because
I think we understand. We're just
not you necessarily. Just people in general can't even seem to understand the other side. And I'm saying, like, it gets frustrating to not be able to have the discourse. Because I don't think either side is right or wrong, but you can't even seem to have the discourse anymore, which is very
everything is either the best thing ever or the worst thing ever. Yeah. Thanks, Mr. Sunday Movies, for that. Best review system ever. Take each thing for what it is.
Let's get to the second time code that they will then stamp to get back.
And it begins again now.
Yeah.
But forget about the butthurt fanboys who are just mad the movie isn't closer to the one they wrote in their heads.
Hey!
Because there's still all the old favorites like Leia, a battle-hardened general trying to keep the spark of hope alive.
And she's in a coma.
Chewbacca,
who gets nothing to do.
And Luke Skywalker,
who after sad old Han and sad old Leia really drives home how your heroes are all sad and old now.
He's turned his back on the franchise after watching the prequels.
The legacy of the Jedi is failure.
And not even reruns of A New Hope can change his mind.
It was a cheap move.
Because what Star Wars fans really needed was to see their idol throw his lightsaber away like it was some kind of joke. And Star Wars is not a joke to me.
Yeah, I've been meaning to talk to you about...
Rian Johnson ruined my childhood like he ruined the laws of space battle.
There are no laws to space battle.
There should be.
Luke,
the lightsaber throw moment, not a fan.
Yeah, that told me that anything was possible from here on out. But I will say this: the people blaming Rian Johnson, who put Luke on that island? JJ put Luke on that island. Who had Luke sit out for The Force Awakens while all his friends were at war? JJ. So, you can be upset with it, but I pose this to you, and I'm sure I'll actually get real attempts back. How would you explain Luke sitting out for all of The Force Awakens?
He had just been doing hella push-ups.
He'd just been doing hella push-ups. That was the situation that Rian Johnson had been handed, and I think to me, the only plausible one is like he turned his back on the conflict. So,
yeah. But I think that gesture of throwing the lightsaber again is that single moment encapsulates, I think, the debate around this movie, which is that The Force Awakens ended with this very kind of mythic moment of very striking image of Rey on the rock handing the lightsaber to Luke, and the camera. It's the last shot of the movie. I mean, that is just like a potential to be like just a very iconic moment of like these two characters meeting, and like that gesture is like, it's a very striking symbolism. And then to come into this movie and have that happen, I think that is the key, which is like, there's one side that would say like, no, isn't that great that the former movie sets up this amazing moment, and then it turns out to be nothing. Like, that's so refreshing that, it doesn't matter. But the other side, and I kind of, if you can't tell, I tend a little bit more toward that side, is that is such an amazing cinematic moment, and then to come back in the next movie and diffuse it. Again, I'm not saying that's the right or the wrong choice. I'm saying by a storytelling standpoint, you've taken what was the kind of emotional climax of the last movie and literally said, doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. And it's jarring.
He was teaching, in his defense, he was teaching Rey the way that he was taught, which was by Yoda, which was first appeared to be a crotchety old swamp creature who just like seems like an idiot, and then slowly revealed that you're a Jedi Master. It rhymes.
He was a Jedi Master.
It rhymes.
In the novelization, Excuse me. It's actually interesting. I think it's a story beat they should have actually included. Maybe had just started a few beats before she arrives. He's actually literally had started that morning trying to burn down that tree again.
It's just not very flammable.
And just no, he can never do it. Like it's one of those things. He always tries to do it. And he tries to do it, and then he has like a Philip Seymour Hoffman in Boogie Nights moment where he's like, "I'm just a stupid idiot," and like can't get it done. So that's why he's up there moping. And then all of a sudden, this lady shows up with this lightsaber, and he kind of
it's like more panics. Jedi souvenirs,
which I don't know could have given that some more context, and it wouldn't have been as jarring. But
so it would have started with him trying to burn the Jedi temple down. That would have been less jarring.
Yeah. I'm just saying, I will not. And
Sorry, I missed that.
There's no reality where JJ shot that the way he did at the end of episode 7. For the next movie to immediately strip it of all of its meaning. And that's what I mean when I say it's obvious that these were two stories that were not intended to be linked in the sense of
but JJ didn't know what he was going to do.
There's
next.
a chance
JJ hadn't thought
when you set something up one way and then the other way you completely start a new tone and everything, it's obvious that it wasn't meant to be like.
I think it was. I think not obvious. I think JJ wrote Ryan into a corner where because play through the counterfactual of this where Rey hands Luke the lightsaber and he goes, "Oh man, I haven't seen this in a while. Where are they at? Let's get them, boys." Like there's the other way doesn't work.
Again, you're countering my argument with a ridiculous argument the other side and saying that's the only option.
I'm exaggerating, but theoretically he would have to. If he saw that and accepted the call and was like, "I'm back, baby," like, then why was he on the island in the first place?
Well, I'm not saying. Whatever. I'm saying that there's a way to do it where you're not just completely pulling the rug out from it, and that's what this movie seemed to be doing at every turn. Was like, not only is it taking the franchise in a new direction, and I'm fine with that. It was just like, get out of my way, pull the rug out, slap in the face, push out of the way. Doesn't give a matter. That doesn't give a shit. Who cares? And it's like that's what it was. It just seemed like Rian Johnson was going into J.J. Abrams' China shop and just kicking over all the shelves, and it just felt strange. It felt weird to me.
J.J. Abrams' China shop has no China in it. It's just empty box after empty box inside another empty box. He doesn't have answers, and Rian Johnson's like, all right, there aren't any answers here. There's nothing in this China shop.
That's satisfying. To ask a question and the answer is there is no answer.
That's JJ.
Satisfying.
That's JJ. JJ.
Yeah.
Anyways, let's keep going.
Whatever.
You guys want to talk Holdo?
Luke isn't the only Skywalker who has issues with the franchise. Kylo Ren is back, and he's demanding a full reboot.
Let the past die. Kill it, if you have to.
When he doesn't look like he's about to cry, which is always.
Nice music cue. He's got a very
Watch as he ditches the Vader fanboy act.
He's still my favorite character.
Mask, and his shirt.
Ooh, Rey, you distracted me on purpose.
Too late. Moving on. Get ready for truly unexpected answers to the puzzles of Episode 7.
That can only be answered by asking, what are the most disappointing answers to the puzzles of Episode 7?
Like who are Rey's parents?
Nobody.
Who is Snoke?
Some dead guy.
And how did Maz Kanata get Luke's lightsaber?
It doesn't matter, and you're stupid for asking.
That after all the hours of speculation and analysis was genuinely exhilarating.
Insulting.
Whoa. How do we keep from a certain point of viewing each other?
Yeah, we're both pretty big Star Wars nerds, huh?
So gear up for the most divisive Star Wars film ever made.
Where Rian Johnson either doesn't understand the lore,
or he made the first Star Wars movie that lives up to the values it preaches, instead of endorsing royal bloodlines and reckless aggression.
Okay, enough division. Let's say our favorite things about it on the count of 3.
1, 2, 3.
Rey
and Kylo team up to fight the Praetorian Guard.
That's great.
Yoda hitting Luke with a stick.
Best scene in the movie.
Wars. Wait, really?
Yeah, I'll own it.
Yeah,
okay,
they weren't overused.
Least favorite.
Perfect amount.
Although not telling anyone her plan. I get knocking Poe down a peg, but come on. They're taking shuttles to a fort. Why make everyone think they're gonna die?
I can't argue with that, though I'm sure people will.
Should we do this again for Solo?
Nah.
I'm not gonna see that crap.
Troubled
Starring.
Yes.
Half the Star Wars fan base.
Salt.
Blu-ray.
It's an internet term.
Luke Teat Milker.
Carrie Poppins.
Finn the Human.
I've been kissed by a rose on
Seal.
the brain.
Kai's so serious.
Snope.
Give me the Karkin keys, your Karkin.
Classic
Usual
Usual
Suspects.
Suspects.
Short
reference.
round.
Pew.
Says
Brienne of Darth.
Hux to be you.
God, really messed up this
And
movie.
redemption for Star Wars Kid.
That would have been me if I'd had
Star
access to the
Wars,
internet.
the
Yeah,
last
the
one
same.
you'll pay to see.
Until the next one comes out.
Maybe.
Maybe.
It is time for my fandom to end.
Did you hear JJ finish the script for episode 9?
My fandom is back. Temporarily.
Well,
There we
I think
are.
we
There
should
you go.
just, to reward the people who've stuck around this long, go right into deleted scenes, and
Yeah,
we'll give our
probably
final
so.
thoughts on the old franchise and what have you.
Yep.
So
Why
what did we
make
cut?
everyone think they're gonna die?
I can't argue with that, though I'm sure people will.
Man, I'm glad the internet didn't exist when Empire came out.
Yeah, they fail in that movie too.
Starring School of Rock.
Jadood Abides. Luke Perry.
Huh.
Old Man Lucan.
Nobody puts Carrie in a corner. Nothing but respect for my princess.
Finish him.
Princess.
Pacific Finn.
Forget it, Rose. It's Kanto Bight.
Baby Driver. That's no moon.
Gold member. Just some shrivel up testicle dude. Irrelevant. And they killed Phasma, you bastards. You should really hold your judgment on all the mysteries. This is only part 2 of 3, you know.
Dude, you have got to see J.J. Abrams' TED
I
Talk.
love this one.
What are stories but mystery boxes? Look at like Star Wars. Who's that? We don't know. Mystery box. Who the hell's Obi-Wan Kenobi? Mystery box. The withholding of information, doing that intentionally, is much more engaging.
Uh-oh.
They've tracked us through light speed.
That's impossible.
Actually, if you recall the archives in Rogue One, as well as Obi-Wan tracking Jango Fett in Episode 2, and the ghosts being tracked in Star Wars Rebels, all track their lightspeed with a beacon. Beaconless tracking is the new tech. Sorry, I thought you guys were fans. You gotta admit,
actually-
it's
I'm
refreshing they
actually
didn't resort
them.
to another Death Star trench run.
No, they just made it smaller and worse.
Miniaturized Death Star tech.
Yeah, there it is.
I love that we had to get one in there. There had to be a Death Star trench run in
Has
here
to.
somehow.
Just
Yeah.
has to. Oh,
Well,
that was
boys.
fun. Yeah. I'll say this in conclusion, and you will also have your final thoughts as well, Dan.
Fair enough.
Even if you don't want or don't like what they did in this movie in particular, it's got to be exciting that this movie exists in a world where we get Star Wars movies twice a year now, or every year now.
Every year at least,
Yeah.
it would appear.
Because
for
if
a while.
we're going to get Star Wars every year,
Yes.
we need to at least have the possibility of surprise and defiance of our expectations. Even if it goes too far and upsets people, the fact that they can make a Star Wars movie that risks upsetting people has to give you some spark of hope. Whereas if we were looking at, if this was like Force Awakens, just kind of a retread of Empire, oh boy, getting one of those every single year till long after we're dead would be tough. And this has reinvigorated my interest in the franchise, and I will at least walk into them not knowing exactly what's about to happen.
Fair enough.
So that's my piece.
Yep.
You don't have any other piece to add?
Listen, I think it's an okay movie. I would still say it's good. It's a good movie. I don't think that Episode 9 is going to feel anything like this movie. I think we're going to have a J.J. Abrams 7, and then this kind of weird jazz riff on Star Wars as 8, and then I think we're going to go back to J.J. Abrams 9. So I sense that this movie is going to be kind of flagged as a intriguing curiosity in the franchise, particularly in these 3 movies. But who knows? There's a whole other one
He's
left.
got a whole other
There's
trilogy.
a whole other thing left, and now he's got his own third, fourth, whatever, first trilogy, whatever they're going to call it. I don't know, to do.
Yeah, I don't know if they'll be
So,
10, 11, 12. Or...
yeah, but I will be very intrigued, and it's like he and JJ were having and he didn't know JJ was going to do 9. It's like they're having a competition about who could paint each other into more of a corner, because now Rian Johnson has painted JJ into an even weirder, worse corner where everything that was sort of the threads have all been cut from episode 7. So
Just kidding, she's a princess.
yeah, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. But
JK.
yeah, I don't know. I think there's room for nuance and discussion, and unfortunately,
Well,
you
I
don't
hope we
see it
demonstrated that
very
here
often.
today. You idiot! You asshole!
Oh, you don't like it as much as me.
You're wrong!
Ah!
Reasons! Anyways,
Purple-haired lady.
this was fun to write. It's fun to talk about still for me. Next week's just kind of a fun one. You know?
Just have a good time.
It's pretty wild.
Yeah.
Wild.
It's,
You know where you are.
yeah. It's they've got fun and games there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I hope you'll join us next week for this silly show we call Honest Trailer Commentaries, and we'll see you then.